Hello and welcome to episode 19 of Big Hoof Energy. I'm your host, Ryan, and as usual, I get to be joined by my co-host, Kaylie. Jackson has other responsibilities today, so our other co-host for the day is Matthew DeSantis. Matthew, how you guys doing?
Doing great. Glad to be the stand-in Philadelphia Eagles fan on this podcast and YouTube show. But yeah, obviously very excited to talk about a big day of racing in New York, highlighted by the Grade 2 Wood Memorial.
That's right. We're not talking about the 20K Pick 6 carryover that starts tomorrow. We're talking about Wood Day on Saturday.
We could transition. We could just really zig where others are zagging, and so
that's absolutely true. Wouldn't be opposed to that, as I'll certainly be participating. But we'll stick to the 4 out of 5 stakes late pick 5 for Saturday Wood Memorial Day. Going as race number 12. It's an exciting card. 13 races in the sequence. 4 graded stakes. Superb day out at Aqueduct. It's going to be a great day of racing. You guys at Aqueduct, as well as us out at Santa Anita, should have a very large day with Keeneland moving to later in the week. So that's only going to help get all the eyes up in New York. So what were your guys' initial thoughts on the sequence?
I mean, I thought it was a little challenging. Less so even the stakes, and more so when you get to the allowance race sandwiched in there was a little bit challenging. But I do think that I definitely have a strong single in here. I could have singled another horse in here as well, so it gave opportunity to spread and races more wide open, like I believe the Wood is a little bit. But yeah, definitely a really strong card, and some of my favorite horses are running, so pretty excited about that.
It is.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting sequence, because I do think that there's maybe an obvious single or two, but then I think there are some really heavy favorites that you could potentially try to play around in this spot. And then I think a lot of whenever you talk about anybody's ticket construction, it's going to come down to their opinion in the Wood Memorial on how much you want to leverage a strong opinion. I remember last year, not to toot my own horn, but just to use this as an example, I felt very strongly about Resilience as a horse that was about 5-1, I think, on the morning line. I love that horse. I was all over that. That was my single. And a lot of people, were spreading a little bit more in that race, or using a horse like Tuscan Sky and others. And so, again, it's about taking a stand where you have those strong opinions, whether that's a favorite that you just feel absolutely stone cold locked about, or maybe a horse that's your 4th or 5th choice in the morning line that you just think is going to absolutely outrun their odds.
Without a doubt, and I'm in agreement. I have a couple strong opinions in the sequence. I have a couple singles in this pick 5. I'm beating a favorite that I think, at least in my opinion, is vulnerable, but I'm excited to get into this. We're going to do it a little bit differently this time. Normally we go through and we put our top 3 picks. This time, I'm just going to throw our pick 5 tickets up on the screen. We're going to go race by race, and we're going to talk about all the horses we used on our ticket. We'll talk about some horses that maybe we wanted to play against and the reasons why. So if you guys are ready, let's get on into it. I will throw up the past performances. We're starting with race number 9. It's the 1.125 Grade 3 Gazelle Stakes for a Kentucky Oaks prep. Our pick 5 tickets are now up on the screen. Your favorite on the morning line is the number 2 Ballerina Doro, who I am playing against completely, and you both are singling. So we're starting off strong. Kaylie, I will go out to you and obviously Matthew first, and you guys are sharing the screen. But go ahead and give me your points on your single Ballerina Doro here.
Yeah, she's the class of this field. Definitely important to note that the number 8, Liam in the Dust, is a scratch, and she was a major pace presence, or she should have been a major pace presence in this race. So now you're looking at probably the number 3 as your main speed, and maybe the 1 a little bit, who's going to have to go from the 1 hole. It's really her only shot. But I do think, although we're not going to see as much pace as originally, I think it's not going to matter so much for Ballerina Doro. We saw in the Demoiselle that she was able to close into not that fast of a pretty slow pace that day. And she made up a considerable amount of ground to finish second to Muhima, who I believe to be one of the best fillies in the entire Oaks group. So to see her run second to that horse and nearly close on her into soft fractions as well, really impressed me. And then next time out, obviously she ran a mile in the Devona Dale 1-turn mile, which I don't think is her strong suit. I think that she's going to appreciate getting to stretch back out to a 1 1/8. And regardless of the pace setup, I think that she's going to be able to get the job done.
Yeah, I would say, I would argue, a lot of the same points that Kaylie brought up. I think the fact that she's shown the ability to close in a paceless race, I think is significant because of the scratch of Liam in the dust. I don't anticipate a strong early pace. I think that Devona Dale, I think, is just a tough race to judge her on, just because it was a short field, a one-turn mile. If anything, I was a little bit pleased that she showed at least some early speed to stay within just a couple of lengths of the pace rather than falling back 6-7 lengths and then having to make a run. So if she can even just sit mid-pack in this race because there's not a lot of pace, rather than trying to make that charge all the way from the back, I think it's certainly a serious question. Dylan Davis back aboard. He rode her in that Demoiselle, and I remember him riding off, talking to one of Chad Brown's assistants after that race. He goes, "I thought we got her." And that horse was flying at the end. And I just think she's a horse that's really going to appreciate the stretch out. But listen, if you're going to try to beat her, Ryan, you're taking the right approach, which is I think that you can poke holes in a lot of the other horses in this race. So you have to use 4 or 5 of them because you hope one of them can put it all together and put together an effort good enough to beat her in the spot.
That was exactly my approach. And it's nothing against Ballerina d'Oro. I think she's a very deserving favorite without a doubt. And I think she could win this race, but I am going to try and beat her in this spot. One of them is going to be a front runner. Is going to be the number 3 Vanilla Sunday. Broke their maiden last time out in a pretty convincing fashion. Obviously, maybe Lasix had something to do with it. Maybe it was the 5-horse field. Not a strong opinion, but one I believe could take a step up. Is certainly bred to like the 2 turns. Off Lasix and second off a quick bench. Shouldn't be an issue here for Todd Pletcher, who going long on the dirt is something he's very good at. A horse that I think is going to be in a similar spot to Ballerina d'Oro is the number 4 early on for Saffie Joseph. Javier Castellano is going to be aboard. One that likes, a little bit of pace to chase, but has 2-turn experience. So I like that 2 back in the maiden breaking effort down at Gulfstream Park, and then had the 1-turn mile and 16th in the Virginia Oaks behind Fondley, who is a good runner, and that just kind of proved to me that she can run well without Lasix. So I want to throw her in without a doubt. And then number 5, De Lorraine. This would probably be my top pick to beat Ballerina d'Oro. Mike Smith, flying out to the East Coast, not something you see too often up at Aqueduct, but I like this Fillies race 2 back in the Suncoast down at Tampa. Closing over that course is not something that's super easy to do. Her Laugh came back, who ran second in that race to run very respectably. Lacara came out to run second, I believe, in the stakes race is blanking me. That the Devona Dale came back to run a decent second in there. So ran behind some decent fillies. Improved on her next start in the Florida Oaks on turf. Comes right back to dirt. And we saw Owen Hardy earlier this Derby prep season throw out a nice one up at Aqueduct. So I know he can ship him up here with some good intention. The number 6 is a bit of a long shot, a bit of a stab in the dark, but I like that 2-back effort. It attracted me enough. I'm willing to scratch that last effort at Park. Some horses just don't handle that course at all. So I'm going to just hope that, this daughter of good magic really appreciates this Aqueduct track and the 2 turns and maybe can step up, because I think that 2-back effort at least puts her in the right spot. I don't know if she'll be good enough, but at least puts her in the right spot. And then the last one I'm going to use to beat her is the number 7, probably my strong second choice in here, Pure Beauty for Shug McGahee. This filly's progressed really, really nicely in her 3 starts. It's the type of progression I love to see from Shug. Obviously, he doesn't win first time out, but he brings them along really nice. This one debuted in the fall at Saratoga, came back to break the maiden in a pretty light figure, but broke it nonetheless, came right back out. And that was a nice second off the bench effort down at Gulfstream Park in the N1X competition. So I'm going to use those 5 to try and beat. Obviously, Kaylie mentioned number 8, Liam in the Dust, is scratched. She would have been on my ticket as well. The only one I could not make a case for was the 1 Late Night Call. I think this filly's a few steps below, and it would really take something surprising for me to see her in the winner's circle. So I'm going to go 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 to try and beat the favorite Ballerina d'Oro, and the Naira team is going to single the Chad Brown filly, who, again, very deserving favorite in this spot.
I think we're contractually obligated to single Chad Brown fillies up here in New York. I need to check, but I think that might be actually in the fine print. So
I will say all the fillies that Ballerina d'Oro. I mean, I keep honing in on the fact that she nearly closed on Muhima the way that she did, and that I don't really know, the caliber of the rest of the fillies in this field compared to her. But I mean, I do agree that the number 3 is going to be a major player, but the horse that actually interested me the most, that I think if you're going to try to beat Ballerina d'Oro, was definitely the number 7, Pure Beauty, from a pedigree standpoint. And also, obviously, the horse improved a ton, getting the stretch out as well. So pretty interesting. And also in that race that was won by Anna's Promise, who we just saw run a really big race last weekend against some pretty nice fillies. So the number 7 also stood out to me a bit.
Exactly. That's an excellent point. Yeah. And if Ballerina d'Oro runs to her 2-back effort in the Demoiselle, everybody else is running for second. I just got to hope that, the figure comes back maybe low 80s. And I feel like, one of my picks could possibly spring an upset there in the first leg. But we'll move on to race number 10 now. That is the Grade 2 Carter Stakes, going 7 furlongs. Our tickets for the pick 5 are up on the screen. I had no strong opinions in this race. I bought the race. It's not something I typically do, but this 7 furlongs a tricky distance. Each and every one of these horses looks like they want to run the exact same style. It's just going to be a jostling for position out of the gate. I see everybody else. I see you both also spread, with Kaylie going 3, 4, 5, 7, and Matthew going 1, 4, 5, 7. So Matthew, we'll start with you on the rail with number 1, Crazy Mason.
Yeah, this is a horse that I just think has really started to figure out what he wants to do. And, this was a horse that was on the Derby Trail last year, running in the Sam F. Davis and the Tampa Bay Derby. They were making this horse go 2 turns, but this horse was always best, I think, around 1 turn, and was the best as a sprinter. After a pretty long layoff, they brought this horse back and has really strung a couple of nice efforts together, coming from off the pace both of those times. I usually am a little worried about horses breaking from the inside rail in sprints, because they do have a tendency to get shuffled back if they don't break cleanly right away. The beauty about Crazy Mason is everybody can just run out in front of him, and that's fine. He'll just got to sit in the back of the field anyway. So I'm not as worried about the inside rail position in that regard. And this is a horse that should appreciate more ground. Going 7 furlongs shouldn't be an issue. He's got all that foundation, having run those 2 turn races before. And I think it's just a horse that's peaking at the right time for Greg Sacco. Obviously has to answer some questions in terms of switching off Lasix, but otherwise, I think it's a horse that is ascending. And those are the types of horses that I like to try to use at a little bit of a price at 5 to 1 on the morning line.
I like that a lot. This horse last time out won really impressively, closing into a very slow pace, the Toxic Gray set. So seeing him win that convincingly is definitely a plus moving into this race. Kaylie, we'll go to you with the number 3, Surveillance for Linda Rice and Jose Lascano.
Yeah, I spread a little bit in this race. I'm not sure. I think all of us are playing against the number 2. Ryan, I didn't see your ticket yet, but I
used them all.
Okay. Oh, okay. So yeah, obviously Matthew and I are both playing against the number 2. So I kind of started there. Quince Brew, who, those figures, I don't really know what to make of them, especially last time that was over a muddy sealed track as well. And this is the horse's first time running at Aqueduct and in graded stakes company. But definitely a few in here that are pretty class tested would be the 3, the 4, and the 7. Those all stuck out to me, with the number 7 probably being my top pick in here. But the number 3, I thought was a pretty decent price on the morning line at 8 to 1, and is on par with the rest of the field, buyer speed figure wise, and hopefully can come off the pace in this race and set a nice trip. But my top pick would be the number 7, Maximus Meridius, who I think could set a really nice trip, gets Joel Rosario back on board, is 4 to 1 in the morning line, and it's just an ultra consistent horse. I'm willing to look the other way at that Parks effort, and look at the 2 starts prior to that, especially the Toboggan. If that horse is able to replicate anything close, I really like that horse on top. But yeah, I spread a little bit with the 3, 4, 5, and the 7. To go to the number 5, Donegal Momentum. This horse is 8 to 1 on the morning line, switching back to the dirt for Tom Morley. And this horse, showed a lot of talent, I thought, on the dirt early on in his career. So excited to see him switch back. Clearly has been a very consistent horse as well, and seems to be improving. So definitely wanted to throw that one on as well.
I like it. Matthew, we all spread in this race. The number 4, Full Moon Madness, is a horse on your ticket. Horse on all 3 of our tickets, actually. What did you like about this runner for Michelle Nevin?
I mean, obviously, you just look at the effort last time out in the Tom Fool, winning a graded stakes race, and really those last few efforts, this horse is just, again, ascending, moving the right direction, progressively getting faster, running against this type of company, and can sit a couple different types of trips. You know, this is a horse that can sit a little off the pace, doesn't need to be on the lead, probably needs to make sure he doesn't get shuffled too far back. I think that's kind of what happened a little bit in the Toboggan, and to a lesser extent in the Graveson when he finished behind Maximus Meridius, who both those times had the jump and was a little bit further, it was more forwardly placed. But this is a horse that has, I think, a lot of ability, is clearly coming into his own, keeps Kendrick Carmouche aboard, which I obviously always like. And I just think this horse can sit the right type of trip. Although, as you said, a lot of horses are going to want to sit similar trips. So it's really going to come down to a jockey's race. And, Kendrick's somebody I trust to put horses in an aggressive early position and just make sure that they don't get shuffled too far back. And so if everybody's standing around looking at each other, which happens regularly in New York, Kendrick's somebody who could actually go to the front and kind of take the initiative here and maybe sit that kind of second or third position, no worse.
Definitely. Kendrick is one of the most aggressive jockeys up in the colony, so he's somebody you can absolutely lean on to get your horse in the right position, especially in a race like this. 7 furlongs is a tricky distance. All these horses have some sort of tactical speed. Donegal Momentum, to me, stood out as a very interesting horse. They want to throw this one back on the turf after a win, a third-place finish, placed in a grade 1, third place in a grade 1 out at Del Mar. Over the fall, and then came right back at Fairgrounds to win. And then we're going 7 furlongs on the dirt up in New York. So obviously, you mentioned it. This horse has some good dirt form to get back to. So this is a horse that intrigued me. I didn't want to leave out Dilger for Saffie Joseph, as if I'm going to buy the race, I might as well use them all and hope for something really crazy to go down. But he would be a bit of a surprise. And then the last one, we'll mention, and then I'll touch on the favorite really quick, the number 2. But number 8, Sheriff Bianco, last time out in the Florida Sandy, I believe is that staked race, something like that. But I love the way that this 7-year-old was able to close into a slow pace going the 7 furlongs. Typically, you either see them heated up on the front end and it really falls apart, or speed holds and they can kind of take them all the way around. But this 7-year-old still has more in the tank. So off of a best effort. Looking back all the way back to May of 2024, I want to take Sheriff Bianco. Seems to be rounding into good form. I'll take a shot at this one. Again, I bought the race. I didn't have a super strong opinion. I thought the number 2, Quince Brew, obviously another deserving favorite here off those last 2 efforts. But Kaylie mentioned it. This one has not run at Aqueduct before. Very low profile connections for a race like this, considering all the other entrants. So I think 2-1 is a very fair price, and one where I'm willing to spread and include this favorite, just because I think I have some stronger opinions later on that I'd like to be right about. So I don't want to, miss out on a 2-1 favorite if I have 2 singles and I get those home.
Yeah, no, I get that logic, and I think that if you're spreading that to that point, then you might as well just buy the whole race, like you said. And I think with Quince Brew, something that I'm just always skeptical of is Mid-Atlantic form traveling up to New York. It's very hit or miss, and Laurel, much like Parks, is a track where some horses love it and some horses absolutely hate it. And I can't tell you the number of times, you'll look at past performances and you'll see a career worst performance from a horse at Laurel Park. Then you'll see a career best performance from a horse at Laurel Park. So it's just one of those tracks where, Edward Allard is certainly a respected trainer down in the Mid-Atlantic, but you're right. Coming up here, it's not a very common move. And now you're facing a whole nother caliber of competition up here. I do question whether that 101 and the 96 are really, are those real numbers that can get backed up against this level of competition. So we'll see. But I think that was part of the reason of, at least Kaylie and I kind of spreading a little bit in this race with some different horses and trying to get around the number 2 in this particular spot.
I like it. Yeah, this was certainly a deep and competitive field. It should, it's a great betting race. First of all, if you're playing this race vertically, should get a fair price on whoever your top opinion is. That's race number 10 going as the grade 2 Carter Stakes. I bought all of them. I went 1 through 8. Kaylie went 3, 4, 5, 7. Matthew went 1, 4, 5, 7. We'll move on now to race number 11, the 1.25 Mile Excelsior Stakes. where I singled the number 8 horse. Kaylie used the 3 and the 4. Matthew used the 4 and the 8. Matthew, I'll turn it to you. Let's talk about the number 8, Mazmak, a 5-2, I believe, second choice on the morning line.
Yeah, I think he just gets the trip. I mean, I think that's the key here. I think Batten Down is a horse that I have a lot of respect for, and obviously love Bill Mott, love the breeding on this horse, who is by closed hatches and who is the half sibling to Tacitus and Scylla, or I should say the full sibling to Tacitus and Scylla. So obviously always been a big fan of this horse going back to that Ohio Derby victory, which was so impressive. But the problem with Batten Down is he's never passed a single horse, and there's going to be a lot of other speed in this race, and we're going a mile and a quarter, and I think he just gets worn down at the end. I think the number 8, Mask Mac, just gets the right sort of trip for Rick Dutrow Jr. Yes, this horse is switching off Lasix, but the horse has run well off of Lasix before, didn't get the win in the maiden special weight company, but certainly ran a nice figure in terms of an 88. And again, another horse that's continually improving, winning 4 of the last 5 times out since breaking that maiden, has been stretching out, and more impressively, has been stretching out his length of victory as he's getting closer to the wire going a mile and an eighth. It's not as if he's barely holding on. He's pulling away from the field going that distance. Manny Franco stays aboard. I think he sits behind the early speed, lets Batten Down and a horse like Mama's Gold or Phileas Fogg wear each other out up front, and then is going to get first run at those beleaguered front runners. I just think going a mile and a quarter, I like this horse a lot at 5-2. And because Batten Down has that big name reputation, I think you'll get a 5-2 price on a horse like Mass Mac, maybe even 3-1, just because you also have a horse like Krupe in here who has a big name recognition up here in New York.
I completely agree. We saw this race very similarly. I think Mazmak sits the trip. You mentioned this runner has some decent off-Lasix form. Finished second at about 28-1 behind Montalcino, who is your 3-1, I believe, second choice at Keeneland in a Grade 3 stakes that'll be run on, I guess it's Tuesday because they move Saturday.
Yeah.
So Montalcino is quite the racehorse. I mean, he is winning and placing second. He's a superstar. So for Mazmak to have that in his resume, and then he's fired off really nothing but good efforts. One loss to Ouster in between that maiden second place finish. So you and I saw it the same way. I think this runner sits the trip. I think there is a lot of pace in here. Mama's Gold really just has kind of one way to go. Same with Phileas Fogg, kind of one way to go. And we mentioned Batten Down, but I want to throw it to Kaylie because you picked Batten Down as one of your 2 in here, along with the number 4, Krupe. Obviously, I'm also a big fan of this horse being sibling to so many great runners like Tacitus and Scylla.
Yeah, I saw the race a little bit differently. I do see the potential of Mazmak sitting a more ideal trip, potentially. And also I could see the threat of maybe the 6 and the 7 that might put a little pressure on Batten Down. But I'm really just banking on the fact that Batten Down's going to get the lead here. And also, if we're talking about, they're going a mile and a quarter here. And this Mazmak, it's never stretched out to a mile and a quarter yet. I'm not saying that it's going to be a huge concern, but it is a question. Batten Down, you compare the horses that he's been running against to any other horse in here. It's pretty insane when you look at his past performances. But yeah, I thought that this horse made a ton of sense, has great speed, and I'm really banking on him getting a clean trip. And hopefully he doesn't have to face too much pressure, but even if he does and they're sitting off of him, I think this horse has enough talent and certainly the pedigree to take it all the way, going a mile and a quarter. And then also, obviously, Krupe, there is going to be a lot of speed in this race, so it should set up really nicely for Krupe. This horse, I love this horse. Obviously, a mile and a quarter is pretty ideal for this horse as well. He won the Grade 2 Suburban going a mile and a quarter, which was actually his last win. So I think, honestly, if he's able to sit, obviously he's going to sit further back in the field, and I think that he's going to be able to get there with all the speed he has in front of him to chase. So
Krupe is the horse that certainly scares me the most in this field because I believe Mazmak is going to get the jump on, pretty much everybody else. But when they're halfway down that stretch, I know I'm going to see Krupe, doing his best to close all that ground. He's going to have a lot of ground to make up. But Kaylie, you mentioned it. There's a lot of pace signed on. So he could get the ideal setup. And the mile and a quarter is a distance that suits him really well, being out of Curlin. So yeah, this is certainly a horse and a force to be reckoned with. Very nice field. These 1.25 mile races can get pretty difficult. Finding an opinion or having a single in here was surprising to me, but the more I looked, it would be too pricey if I went too deep. A horse I think could hit the board at a decent price would be the number 1 Film Star. Not one that I think is a win candidate, just because off the layoff going 1.25 miles is a very tough ask. But this horse has a very nice running style. Doesn't need the lead necessarily. Has some tactical ability, and I think he fires a good effort that could certainly put him in the mix to get somewhere in that top 3. But off the layoff, I think was just a little too tough. But race number 11. Go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, if we're talking about kind of an underneath play, I think Classic Catch is kind of an interesting horse. The number 2 at 15-1 for Todd Pletcher. The blinkers are coming on. This horse has always had a lot of talent, and I feel like Todd's never really figured out what to do with this horse in terms of distance, in terms of level. But I just think this horse, again, last couple of times out have not been bad efforts. Did finish behind Mask Mac and Mama's Gold last time out. But I think the blinkers coming on is a big deal because he feels a little bit like Batten Down in terms of he's a horse that can't really pass other horses. And so that's another horse to potentially consider when you're talking about the early pace scenario. If you put the blinkers on this one, is the intent now, let's go to the front because we can't pass anybody. So let's get this horse up on the front end, sitting no worse than maybe second, because there's not going to be an opportunity for this horse to come from off the pace because he's never shown that ability before, really. So I don't know. At 15-1, the equipment change is always something that strikes my attention. And you see a Todd Pletcher horse at 15-1 at Aqueduct. You don't see that very often. So thought that one, at least underneath, might be a little bit interesting.
Absolutely. I like it. Certainly at a price. While we're on the subject of all these races in this sequence and covering Aqueduct, how does the weather look as we kind of approach the weekend? Do we think we're going to get an off track? Do we think it's going to be, maybe just a little bit of moisture? How does it look up in Ozone Park?
Probably just a little bit, if any. I mean, because I think that we're supposed to get rain tonight, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, tonight into tomorrow, we're supposed to get about a quarter of an inch. And then Saturday, we're supposed to get about 1/10 of an inch of rain. So not that much. It's going to be a little bit more kind of drizzling conditions. I would be hard pressed to see a situation where we have, I don't want to say that we won't have a sealed track, but I have a hard time seeing a sloppy sealed situation, or really maybe even a muddy sealed situation. I could see maybe a good sealed, or maybe they harrow it halfway through the day or something like that, or they try to get it in good condition. But I think a good or a fast track is probably most likely for Saturday.
And New York always does this thing where they say it's going to rain for days. And then if it just rains like the first day and the second day, then the forecast is usually clear after that. So who knows, maybe we'll see no rain.
We'll do a rain dance on our way out of the Aqueduct tonight. Try to save everybody. Try to get a fast track for everybody.
There we go. I like it. Thank you for the weather update there as we wrap up race number 11, the 1.25 mile Excelsior Stakes. Now to get to our feature race on the Saturday card, it is the Wood Memorial. Going as race number 12. We're going 1.8 miles. I singled the number 7. Kaylie went with the 1, 2, 7, and 11. Matthew went with the 1, 2, 7. So we are all pretty similar in our thinking of using the number 7 Grande. Let's start to the far outside, or rather one in from the inside. That's the number 11 Statesman, a horse that certainly deserves a close look, closing into a couple slow paces. Kaylie, I'll throw it out to you as you use the Shug McGahee training.
Yeah, this race, just to start off in general, became even more wide open than I viewed it before scratches. I originally landed on Hill Road as my top pick. I thought it was going to set up super nicely for that horse, and things became a little bit more wide open now. I view Statesman as a horse that's probably going to be sitting, mid-pack, similar to how he has been, and being able to, sit a nice trip behind all the other speed horses in front of him. And I think 15-1 on the morning line is a really, really good price. Don't think you're going to get that now with all the talk about this horse. But I mean, from a pedigree standpoint, this horse really stood out to me as well. The Dam broke her maiden second time out, going 1.5 miles on the turf, and then came back to win the Personal Ensign, going 1.25 miles, obviously on the dirt, and then has some siblings that, ran very well routing as well. So this one has a really big pedigree. Obviously, Shug McGahee, he's placing this horse right up into stakes company definitely says something. And if this horse improves a little bit from a buyer speed point perspective, he could fit in pretty nicely with the group. But I just thought 15-1, and you can make a lot of sense of him on the paper in a wide open race. I wanted to include him on my ticket.
Definitely, and thank you for pointing out the scratches, because we do have a scratch. I dropped the ball at the beginning of this, but the number 6 Hill Road spiked a fever and will be scratching from this race. So the number 6 Hill Road, listed at 9-2 on the morning line, will not be participating in this event. The horse that will be is right to this one's inside, the number 5 Sand Devil that you both used on your ticket. Matthew, I'll throw it out to you. This horse has never run a bad race, but you're getting 8-1 now on the morning line.
Yeah, we actually did not include this horse on our ticket, so I think we used the.
Oh, sorry, I was looking at the wrong. I was looking at the wrong race there for the pick 5. But we'll go to the number 2 then, Captain Cook.
Yeah, no, I'll make a quick point about Sand Devil, who is stretching out. Going from a mile now to a mile and an eighth. They interviewed Linda Rice today on America's Day at the Races. Kaylie actually clocked this earlier, and Linda said the plan is to sit off of Rodriguez.
Or she said that. She said like that she would love to see this horse sit right off of Rodriguez, but
I would love to see this horse not do that.
That she's going to put it in Jose Lozano's hands, she said. So I just thought it was interesting.
It is interesting because, again, listen, we sound like a broken record. When Andy's on, he probably talks about this too. Figuring out pace in New York is sometimes impossible because the horses break and everybody just stares at each other and nobody takes the initiative. It usually happens on the turf, but it can happen on the dirt too. And if the plan is just to let Mike Smith and Rodriguez get out up on the front end and let Sand Devil just sit off of that, I don't know what sort of winning strategy that is for Sand Devil. So because he's got one way to win, and that's to go. They screwed around last time in the Gotham with that, and it cost him that race. Just go to the front. Don't get cute. This is what this horse needs to do. So, listen, I understand you want to conserve a little bit, stretching out to a mile and an eighth, but I think that changes the complexion if the intent really is to just sit off of Rodriguez, because now suddenly you're able to let Rodriguez get a much more comfortable lead rather than what we saw last week in Arkansas with Cornucopian and Speed King dueling each other into the ground in those first couple of furlongs. So, just that point about Sand Devil, but to go to Captain Cook, who's a horse that I like. That's my top pick in this race. I like this horse quite a bit. I think he sits the perfect trip. I think he sits either he flanks Rodriguez or he sits the pocket trip right behind Rodriguez. This is a horse that's sitting, I think, on a huge effort. I used this logic last week with Tapan Street of a horse that had run in the 10-point prep races and was not guaranteed a spot in the Kentucky Derby. What needed to win or finish second in this final round prep to get the spot. Same thing with Captain Cook. Won the Withers, did it impressively, got a 94 buyer speed figure, and then guess what? Didn't see him in the Gotham. Babe Dutro's not put him anywhere else. And so now it's all or nothing in this race. This horse is firing off bullets. I think he's sitting on a massive race. That 94 buyer speed figure, quite frankly, still holds up to some of the best in this crop. We saw that's what Tapan Street ran. Sandman's running about a 95. Outside of your neck of the woods in California, nobody's breaking 100, really, other than Magnitude, who was on the Derby Trail for all of about 10 minutes. So it's one of those things where, if he's able to move forward just a little bit, run a 97, 98, you got to think Captain Cook's one of your top 3-4 choices potentially for the Kentucky Derby, because those figures would match up really well with anybody else in the country. So I just think he's sitting on a big effort. I know there's some questions about the practical joke influence up top and whether or not he can handle if there's a sort of a pace pressure, but he's my top pick in this one. Like him a lot.
This is a horse that you mentioned it towards the end of that with out of practical joke. Just not out of practical joke, just not sure about the distance. That was kind of what dissuaded me from picking Captain Cook. I'm with you. He could be sitting on a really big effort. I'm just not sure of how big of an effort that might end up being. I'm not sure if the distance could end up being, the final kind of hurdle that he's not able to clear, but certainly a really talented 3-year-old. I'd love to see Captain Cook in the Pat Day Mile. I think that would fit him beautifully around that one turn at Churchill Downs. I think he'd be a major, major threat in there. He's certainly capable of winning this race, not trying to talk anybody off of Captain Cook, where you get a nice generous price of 7-2. We'll talk quickly about the rail runner. 5-2 on the morning line. It's Rodriguez shipping out from the West Coast to get away from the bulls like Citizen Bull and journalism, as well as Barnes, if you want to throw him into that mix. gets out here, draws the rail for Mike Smith, but this horse has one win and it came on the lead. Mike Smith is great at getting a horse out on the lead, getting that horse to relax. You have to imagine, even with the blinkers coming off, that's where this horse is going to go. You both used them on your tickets. Go ahead and take it away.
Yeah, I have this horse second underneath Grande. I think that obviously this horse is going to send from the rail. Something that really stuck out to me was that this horse ran a faster race in his maiden than Citizen Bull ran in the Robert B. Lewis. Granted, I know it was 2 different days, but it was a pretty significant difference there. So I think that this horse could be faster than we saw in his last 2 starts, where, you know, Citizen Bull was meant to win the Robert B. Lewis, and then this horse, and then Barnes was meant to win the San Felipe, and they both ran into a monster in journalism. So I really think that this Rodriguez, he's going to have a way better shot at getting in the winner's circle in this, against this field. And I think that he, you know, he has the best speed, and hearing that Sand Devil is potentially not going to go with this horse. I mean, if this horse happens to inherit the lead and he's going easy, I think it's game over. But you know, that's why. But I have this horse second. It's not really even a given that this horse can get the distance either, which is something else. I mean, I trust him more than a few others in here, but it's not a guarantee that this horse can get the distance facing pressure. So there are still some questions at 5-2, which is why I landed on a horse like Grande, who I have less questions with at a better price. But yeah, I definitely think Rodriguez is going to be a major player here and could be the speed of the speed.
Yeah, Rodriguez, you'd have to imagine, going to be sent with some real intention out of the gate. I'm with you, though. I have questions whether the mile and an eighth over a very trying Aqueduct track is going to be to his liking. While I think out at a speedway like Santa Anita, Aqueduct definitely tests those limits a little bit more, a little bit of a deeper track, especially this time of year. So that may end up being to his detriment. My top pick and my single in this race was the number 7 Grande. You both used them on your tickets as well. I love this horse. Has progressed really nicely from start 1 to start 2. Really just built upon that debut effort, stretched out an extra furlong, gets to repeat that effort here, going the 9 furlongs in the Wood Memorial. Todd Pletcher going long, shifts this horse up. This feels like this was always the goal for this horse. This is kind of the, pointing to this race. I love that this appears to just be a target for a trainer like Todd Pletcher, who always does really well, regardless of, where he sends his horses and when. But when he has a target, and when trainers can kind of point their horses to a race, and it seems to be working out with, 2 very open length wins coming back to back. I love everything about this horse coming in. Obviously bred to handle the distance, no problem. So this is a big single for me. Obviously my pick 5 ticket, I think someone pointed out in the comments, I'm 5x8 in the first 2 legs, and then followed by 2 singles. So I absolutely am going to just play like a double 8-7 going with these. But for our show, we like to throw out the pick 5 tickets. So for that sake, that's why I'm going 5x8. But Grande, certainly a top pick for me. What say you guys?
Yeah, he's a horse I'm including on my ticket. You two are higher on him than I am a little bit. He is switching off Lasix, getting a different jockey now from John Velasquez to Dylan Davis. And I'll say Jimmy's dailies and indecisiveness didn't do a lot to flatter his form in the Florida Derby. Those 2 horses ran absolutely nothing races coming back. So there is a question, maybe how good was the competition that he beat down there? But I agree with what you said about this was the intent for Todd Pletcher. And there was a quote that I remember him saying about 4 or 5 weeks ago when talking about Disruptor and Grande. And he said, I trust Grande can handle the Aqueduct surface, that I can trust that he can handle the deeper surface. He goes, I don't know about that with Disruptor. I think he needs the shallower surface down at Gulfstream Park that's a little more speed favoring. That's where he's going to do his best. He had a lot more confidence in Grande being able to ship up here and handle the distance, which he's already done before, which is a huge plus for him. So I think he's sitting on a potentially nice effort. He's a horse I'd be scared to leave off my ticket, which is why he's on it. But I guess the variability that he has, maybe high floor, low ceiling sort of a thing, or high ceiling, I should say, and low floor, in terms of where he might be able to run in this race. I could see any number of outcomes for him, but a good one is not out of the question at all.
Without a doubt. Go ahead, Kaylie.
I mean, obviously that Jimmy Dailies.
Yeah, Jimmy's
Dailies. obviously didn't run that well back out of that race, but he did beat Campale on debut, and Campale was able to replicate that same figure in the Sam F. Davis after. So not like a huge positive, but at least that was nice to see in comparison with the Jimmy's Dailies.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely think in this horse at 5-1 on the morning line is pretty hard to resist with the two other top choices. But yeah, that's why all four of them are on my ticket, though. I think honestly I could see any one of them getting
It
the
is
win.
it is a very competitive race. I did just decide to take a stand with the number 7 Grande. Yeah, I mean, again, the ultimate kind of deciding factor was we haven't really seen the best of this horse. At least I certainly don't hope so. I think this horse is going to handle the surface, and we've mentioned it. This was always the target. This was always the goal for a guy like Todd Pletcher going long on dirt, and this is the kind of the goal. Obviously, before the goal of the first Saturday in May. I love everything about it. I think Grande is going to fire a huge effort. And more than anything, I just want to see, I want to see this race. It's so deep. It's so competitive. We have West Coast shippers. We have horses coming down from Gulfstream, horses that have spent their entire careers up in New York at Aqueduct and Saratoga. So it's going to be a nice mix of all different shippers, all different areas. It's going to be really competitive. And it's going to make for a fantastic rendition of the Wood Memorial, worth 100 points to the winner. Full points out there, as you guys have a field of 11 after the scratch at Hill Road. No comment on the state of the Santa Anita Derby field, but that is race number 12. Kaylie went 1-2-7-11. Matthew went 1-2-7, and I singled the number 7. We'll move on now to the nightcap, which in my opinion, probably the hardest, maybe second hardest race in this entire sequence. State bred, optional claim, non-2 other than race. I went with the 9 and 10. Kaylie went 3-4-10. Matthew went 3-9-10. So I feel confident that we're all kind of on the same page. Your favorite is even money, number 3 Dolomite, who lost his last 3 races, coming in second in each of those tries, running very decent efforts. I decided to just fade this horse completely today. You guys wanted to use him. I'll let you guys take it away with the number 3 Dolomite.
Yeah, it's a defensive play, I think, for sure. I mean, it's an even money horse that's burned money the last 2 times out. And so you don't want to get too, you don't want to get too cute. And I think it's a competitive race where I just didn't have a very strong opinion for my next choices beyond this. I really wanted to fall in love with another horse a little bit more and go, yeah, let's actually get Dolomite all the way off my ticket. And let's just, sit there and, fade this horse and use 2 or 3 others. Couldn't really get there. And so it's a little bit more of a defensive play. And also the way that I structured my ticket, I got to this last leg and I realized, hey, I can use 3 horses and it's not going to be the end of the world. It's still going to be a rather inexpensive ticket. So including Dolomite, yes, the ticket police will probably come and and maybe, place me under arrest. I don't know. But I just think this horse, the potential of him winning this last race, I think, is pretty strong. You get Chad Brown, Manny Franco aboard. Manny stays up on this one. It has just been running so consistently. That's the thing is, yes, the horse has been finishing second, but it's been consistent every single time out. You know exactly what you're going to get from this one. Third back in the form cycle should be the best effort. So, I think just including this one, like I said, maybe a little defensive, but hard to also get around in this spot.
Yeah, very much so. Kaylie, anything to add on the number 3 Dolomite?
Yeah, I completely agree. I honestly the same exact situation where I could go 3 deep here and have it not be that too expensive of a ticket. So I did, because obviously I included the 3, the best horse on paper, speed figure wise, connections wise. So needed to include that horse, and I could see it really setting up for that horse as well. There's a lot of speed in this race, and this horse is going to likely come from off the pace as well. So could set up nicely. But then I did include the number 4 Nolita as well. I included some horses maybe at bigger prices. Just the 4 and the 10 I included. But Nolita is a horse that is probably going to sit mid-pack and likely maybe with some more pace to run into that. I mean, I don't think that she's going to get much more pace than we've seen in the last couple, but I think that this is a horse that is kind of a wild card, and I could see it likely slightly setting up for her. So I really wanted to include her, and she is 10-1 as well in the morning line. So
yeah, Nolita presents some tremendous value, without a doubt. A hard trying horse for Bill Mott, and it wouldn't be a show with you guys if we didn't talk about some Bill Mott runners. So I love it. Nolita's going to present some fantastic value at 10-1. I like it. Yeah, 7 furlongs should be a nice distance for her to really get to stretch her legs and everything like that. So I like Nolita a little bit. We'll go to the outside to the number 9, Fast and Frisky, a horse that I'm going to use along with the number 10. I thought this one could kind of just sit a nice stalking trip. From the outside, I like how this runner has run in his 3 tries going the 1-turn mile here at Aqueduct. So I think the cut back of a furlong is really going to between the eyes. I like that this horse was first at that second to last point of call in 2 of his last 3. That typically points to me where on the cut back, that's really going to be where that horse is going to be finishing off nicely. So this horse should just kind of sit in that second flight is what I'm hoping for. And Key Rakoa hopefully gets this horse across the finish line in good fashion. Has finished 3rd in each of his last 2 races behind Dolomite. Pretty convincingly beaten, I would say, in those last 2 by Dolomite, but I'm hoping this one can turn the tables on her in this effort on Saturday. So that was my case for the number 9. Matthew, do you have anything to add, as you also included this horse?
Yeah, I think I saw many of the same things you did with regards to the 9, and just thought this one, certainly had been moving forward from a buyer speed figure standpoint. I also like the cutback quite a bit, and you're absolutely right. That second last point of call, being in the lead there, speaks well to the cutback situation, I think, and a horse that, like I said, we were talking about Dolomite, we were talking about Nolita, horses coming from a little further off the pace. This one should be able to get the jump and be a little bit more forwardly placed for the daughter of Solomini.
Without a doubt. We'll go to the outside to the number 10, Sohana. Kaylie, I'll throw it back out to you, as we all use this horse somewhere in our pick 5s.
Yeah, this horse was one that I was a little bit scared of that I wanted to include. Obviously is going to be super fresh off the layoff for Brad Cox, and that was really why I included this horse. I think that she's going to be able to get into a really nice position early, being so fresh off the layoff. I look back to that she was pretty forwardly placed in some of her starts. So, especially since, the last time we saw her as well. So I think that we're going to see a similar situation on Saturday, and she should be pretty fresh. So this was when I was a little scared to leave off my ticket and get Joel Rosario aboard as well for the first time. I don't think it's much of a change, but good jockey. So.
Yeah. And I think you look at this horse, and Cox is winning 38% of races over the last year off 180-day layoff. Totally normal numbers, and just everybody else is winning 6%. Listen, he knows how to get these horses ready off of a layoff. And this one certainly has been running against tougher competition, stakes competition, running against the likes of My Shady Lady, running against Sunday Girl, so has been facing that New York Stallion Series stakes competition, both on the turf and the dirt. And I just think has a lot of class at 5-1. Brad Cox, Joel Rosario in the last race. Yeah, give me that. And so I just feel like that's a horse that could absolutely upset Dolomite in this spot coming off the bench.
Me too. This is the kind of the fresh face versus this group. Fast and Frisky has faced that similar company with Dolomite in her last 2. Sohana is going to be the fresh face coming in to start her 4-year-old season off the summer break from Saratoga. Yeah, definitely going to be fresh, as Kaylie mentioned. So I'm just hoping this one is in a nice position. 7 furlongs is a tricky distance to come back with, but at least she gets Lasix for the occasion. It didn't come up the toughest group. There's not a whole lot of speed for this being a 7 furlong race. So hopefully she's just in the right spot, and Joel Rosario can get a nice clean trip and finish down the lane. And then we all cash in that last leg of this pick 5. So I like it. This is a fun sequence. I'm excited to obviously have the races get run on Saturday because that's what ultimately matters. Happy the weather doesn't look too awful out there. How does the next couple days look for you guys as we ramp up to Wood Memorial Day out at Aqueduct?
Busy, man. Just staying busy. Obviously, we're still getting ready for Keeneland opening day, whenever that may happen. And it looks like Sunday now is going to be opening day at Keeneland. Yes. So we'll have a lot of stuff for the Bluegrass and the Ashland coming up on Monday and Tuesday. And getting ready for those 2-year-old baby races. I know somebody in particular who's very excited about a bunch of first crop sires over here. So that's going to be a lot of fun seeing the Yauponds and the Maxfields and the Bo Liams. And all those horses running, Code of Honor and all these other horses with their first crops coming out at Keeneland. So that's going to be a lot of fun. We got the Dubai World Cup that we're going to be covering for Naira Bet. So, we're just staying busy and Looks like I said, the weather should, fingers crossed, be not terrible. Certainly better than our friends down in Louisville, who we hope everybody in Lexington, who we hope everybody's staying safe down in the Commonwealth of Kentucky. And, we're just going to have some good racing up here, and hopefully we can cash out on these tickets.
I like it. It's a huge weekend. You mentioned it's going to start early. We have the Dubai World Cup going. I think it's 10:30 a.m. Pacific time. They moved it back due to some heat advisories out there in the middle of the desert. Couldn't see how that wouldn't happen. But then we get to have a wonderful day of racing at Aqueduct. We have a wonderful day of racing at Santa Anita. Keeneland plans got thrown up into the air. I was going to go out there on Wednesday for that full week, but with them moving the Bluegrass and the Ashland, I think I'm leaving Sunday night now. So I'm just trying to figure out all my last second travel plans. So I'm definitely going to be out there probably for the full week. Sunday to Sunday racing down in Lexington is going to be great. Having a full weekend, a full stacked weekend at Aqueduct is going to be fantastic. Stacked weekend out at Santa Anita. It's a great weekend of racing as we are about 4 weeks out from the Kentucky Derby. Matthew and Kaylie, thank you both for joining. This was a very fun show. We gave ourselves a $100 budget for this pick 5, and all of us came in under 50. So we're all doing great in the budget. In the budget, we could even play this to $1 if we felt confident enough. So I like it a lot. Thank you guys for joining. Thanks everybody for watching. We will be back next week with some more wonderful shows. We have Get Buck next week. We'll obviously have Big Hoof Energy as we get things going towards the Kentucky Derby. So for Kaylie and for Matthew, thank you both again for joining me. And until next time, we'll see you later.